my name is Megan Hutson, and I'm a Homeworks Consultant representing BJU Press Homeschool. Today we're going to look at the course resources for the secondary math textbook kits on the Homeschool Hub. So let's jump into the Hub and see what's there.
I am now on the Courses tab of the Hub, and as you can see, I have uploaded all of the parent-led textbook kits for Math 7 through 12th grade. Each of these courses will have different course resources. The way that you get to the course resources is the same for each course. Click the Details button, and then press the Course Resources. This will pull up a couple different folders: the Online Resources and the Corrections folder. The Corrections folder will contain anything that needs to be updated or corrected within your course. It's always a good idea to look at this file before beginning this course so that you can make any changes you need to. The other file, the Online Resources, is where you will find all of your extra information to be able to teach this course. Each course will have a different list of instructional aids. It's always good to poke around and see what's there before you begin teaching. Let's go through some of the highlights of Fundamentals of Math 3rd edition. The first file I see is called Activities, Teacher's Notes. In order to access this, I'm going to press the Download button. This will pull up, in this case, a PDF file. Some of these will pull up as PowerPoints, and other files will pull up as Excel sheets. I've already downloaded this PDF file, so let's see what's in it. So this is the Activities Manual Teacher Notes file. This is going to be notes for me to use as I am helping my child work through their activities pages, specifically in this case, the STEM projects that we will be working through in that activities book. The next file I see is called Instructional Aids. When I download this file, I get the instructional aids for teaching this course. As a note, at the bottom of each of the instructional aids is a note to tell you which lesson this instructional aid is used with. It will usually say instructional aid and then give a number, followed by used with lesson, and then gives you the same number. When you're using your teacher edition book, if it tells you to have an instructional aid or an IA, which is abbreviated for instructional aid, it will always give you the number of the chart or file that you will need. You can match these up in this file called Instructional Aids on the Hub. The next thing I see is the lesson plan overview. These are the same sheets you have in your teacher edition book, but if you need a clean copy or you would like to print out a copy, you can do so from the Hub. And finally, the rest of the files for this course are called Matherdy. You can use these to review at the end of the chapter before taking the chapter test. As a note, when you use this PowerPoint file, you will want to change it to slideshow mode in order for the game show to work correctly. I've now jumped into the 3rd edition of Pre-Algebra. The course resources are pretty similar to Fundamentals of Math. You'll have your lesson plan overviews, you'll have Matherdy review games for each chapter, and then in the corrections, I do see some corrections to make in your student edition. This is what those corrections would look like. And I would just make a point to go through my student edition book at the beginning of the year and make the changes on these pages. That way I know they've already been corrected before we begin working through the course. Jumping into the 4th edition of Algebra 1, this is also very similar to the last two courses. You'll have your lesson plan overviews, your Matherdy games to review each chapter, and then a file called Web Links. These web links will link specific lessons to specific help videos on afterschoolhelp.com. These can help present or represent harder topics that you might need a little bit more instruction on. The 5th edition of Geometry is also pretty similar to the other courses. You'll have the lesson plan overviews. You'll also have the Matherdy review games. This one also has a file called Biblical Worldview Scope. This page will show you how biblical worldview is interwoven into the geometry course. There is also a file called Visuals. This will give you different pictures to be able to show while you are teaching the lesson. There is also a file called Worksheets. This is a printable file that will have some of the examples from the student exercise. That way you can print it out and work directly on a sheet of paper. The 3rd edition of Algebra 2 is very similar to the other courses we've been seeing. I'm just going to point out some of the notable differences. First is this file called Activities and Answer Keys. If you are wanting more practice or additional problems for Algebra 2, the Activities pages would be a great place to look. There are additional pages for your child to work through problems, and you can treat these as worksheets. There are also answer keys linked in here. And this works through some of the calculator functions with your child for how to use a graphing calculator. You will also have a file called Appendix. In the appendix, you will have a list of vocabulary words and the chapters those words are introduced in. You will also have your Dominion modeling, some information on calculator skills, and some study skills. There is also a file called Other Visuals. This is similar to instructional aids from other courses, where it's images that you can use while you are teaching lessons. In the second edition of Precalculus, you'll find a file called Lesson Plan Overview, similar to what we've been seeing in the other courses. You'll also find some projection-ready answer keys. These are files with the answers so they could be shown on a projector. Probably not super helpful for your classroom, but if you do need the answer key, there are the solutions. There is also a file called Selected Odd Answers, and that is like what your student would have at the back of their student book. These are the answers to all of the odd questions, and these are usually just the solution and not all of the work that would need to go with it. And last but not least is the third edition of Consumer Math. There are not a whole lot of files in the course resources for this one. You'll have the lesson plan overview and then some corrections to make in your teacher and student edition books, as well as your assessment answer key. So these were the highlights from the course resources for the parent-led secondary math textbook kits. If you have other questions, please reach out to your Homeworks by Precept consultant. We are all happy to help you.